Can you tell us a little bit about LEMUR and how and why they're studying this?
Absolutely. We, as I said, League of Energy Materialization and Unexplained Phenomena Research. As we know it, this is certainly unexplained phenomena, and it also is a bizarre manifestation of energy that we cannot understand. However, we've, had reports where people did get close to the lights, as Cindy had said. However, I've had people say that they got close enough to touch them and that they got a good shock off of them. Okay, and for there to be that kind of a, a shock, I think that there'd be, probably a good chance that there's an energy present there. And there are other reasons that lead us to believe that. In our primary research, and this can get kind of lengthy, but I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version here. What we believe is that there's a lot of geologic richness there in the mountain. Specifically, we've got quartz and magnetite present. Now, quartz is a non-conductor. Magnetite is a conductor. And when you have layers of conductors and non-conductors like that, you're going to be able to build up over time weak electrical charges. Okay. Now, LEMUR, to our own satisfaction in the laboratory, has actually been able to produce an experiment that allowed us to run water over a small capacitor and build up a charge more quickly. There are streams and little, rivers and things that run all through the valley, and there's presumably more of them underground that would actually travel over these rock formations. Now, keeping that in mind, at night when the mountain cools, okay, and it contracts and pressurizes all these little natural capacitors there in the mountain, and furthermore the thrust fault that sits at the base of the mountain that's continuously pressurizing the mountain, we've got basically a large natural capacitor that at the right time and under the right circumstances can release discharges. And what we're thinking is that these discharges are a plasma-like manifestation similar to ball of lightning, like I'd said, that are able to manifest when conditions are, more, I guess, suitable for these things to be, visible. We think that they may be appearing in the non-visible realm, however, more often than we might, assume. In other words, they could be going on right now, but there has to be an intense energy concentration for folks to be able to see them in the visible ultraviolet spectrum.
Okay. Has anyone, through touching or getting close enough, ever been able to get an electromagnetic read on any particular form?
Not, I don't think, with the, not concurrent with the lights, being present. However, on many camping trips that I've done with LEMUR, we've been up there and we have, we've taken VLF equipment, electromagnetic field detection equipment, Geiger counters, and we have monitored a lot of different bizarre energy fluctuations and abnormalities. We actually took metal probes and put them 15 feet apart and drove them into the ground there at what I like to call ground zero. It's a large flattened out space on a Forest Service road that we like to camp up there, and we were actually able to register all these bizarre fluctuations in plasma fields on the VLF equipment that we took up there. We also, and this is kind of harrowing, I told my friends here that I rode down with about an instance where I sat and held a Geiger counter, which registers EMFs. It picks up basically radiation and things of that nature. And war survey meters are used by the government in this manner to check out radioactivity. I sat there and held a Geiger counter while it maxed out on Brown Mountain on one of our camping trips, and we were all kind of scared. I thought, I'm going to have little green babies after this.
How safe is this water?
Yeah, but what it was, and this seems to be one of the factors involved with the manifestation of the lights, is there had been a huge thunderstorm that day. And that after a thunderstorm like that, the ions in the atmosphere are positively charged. And this can actually override the tube in the Geiger counter and cause it to max out. And this was one of many circumstances that we found that are pretty good for the manifestation to occur. Really, you want to look at, cooler weather, typically around the fall. You want to also kind of go after or during a rainstorm. I told Chris earlier when the KP index is 4 or above, and that is when basically geomagnetic activity here on Earth is kind of inhibited by solar flares from the sun. You can learn all about that at the Weather Channel website and things like that.
Thank you for
Absolutely, it's kind of technical. And then also, really, when there are a lot of campfires, there seems to be more carbon in the air, and that's something that will aid plasma in forming. And if you want to try something at home, I wouldn't recommend it unless you've got a couple of microwaves you can spare. You can actually take a candle and light the candle and put it in a microwave and lay a cigarette next to it. And the cigarette is a source of carbon. And if you do that and turn the microwave on, the flame, which is a weak form of plasma itself, will leave the candle and begin floating as a luminous little orb inside the microwave.
And I take it the cigarette is lit.
The cigarette is not lit, no. But see,
lit.
what happens is when the microwaves bombard this flame and the cigarette, the carbon is actually present there inside this little mini atmosphere. And so that's a simple experiment you can do at home, But I wouldn't recommend it unless, like I said, it's, you're
something
willing
you
to...
could throw away.
Yeah, you're going to burn up your microwave doing that, and we've done that with several.
Well, thank you for that explanation. And thank you for the technical aspect, because obviously, you know, people who go camping can enjoy it, but also people who want to find out what
Sure.
is the real deal.
Yeah.
Now have a good place to start. Do we need to go on here and talk more about the Brown Mountain lights, but of course not just Brown Mountain. So can you, Chris, tell us about Brown Mountain, and then there was another area, Wiseman Outlook, you mentioned?
Yes.
And around that area, and then kind of go from there, and just where else can people go and find this phenomenon?
Well, let me start by describing where Brown Mountain is. It is in the northern part of Burke County, North Carolina. It's north of the city of Morganton, and it's right on the escarpment of the Blue Ridge, more or less joining the foothills to the mountains. It's in a Pisgah National Forest area called Wilson Creek. So it's national forest land, and it's a little bit south of Grandfather. The viewers of the footage of the lights may have been impressed by how undistinguished Brown Mountain is compared to the peaks around it, such as Grandfather and Table Rock and Hawksbill. It's sort of a bread loaf shaped, undistinguished looking formation. Its height is around 2,700 feet at the summit, and maybe 1,000 feet lower down at the base of the mountain. The Linville Gorge is some 7 or 8 miles to the northwest of that. This is a canyon that through thousands of years has been worn down by the elements, by the Linville River, and 4 miles out along a dusty dirt road called the Kistler Memorial Highway, leaving the town of Linville Falls from Highway 183, you come to a big rock formation called Wiseman's View, and this is the traditional viewing point for the Brown Mountain lights. But it has also recently become the focal point for what we call the Gorge lights, which is a different phenomenon. And I would defer to Cindy on the activity and the presence of the Gorge lights. She has had some remarkable experiences with these. But this gives the viewer some idea of where the two viewing areas are located.
Okay. And Cindy, if you could tell us, can maybe give some specific instances about the lights that you have seen in the different locations?
Well, I've only seen them at Wiseman's View.
Okay.
I've been to 181, and the outlook there, the trees are overgrown. It's hard to see Brown Mountain Ridge.
Okay.
There's also a place up on the Blue Ridge Parkway that sort of looks down toward the Brown Mountain Ridge, where a lot of folks will stop there, but that's not as good a spot to look. The Linville Gorge, I'm just going to tell you a couple experiences I had up there. Kind of like the tape we just watched. I was at Wiseman's View Labor Day weekend last year, and it was very much like what we saw in the film, except it went on for hours, 3 hours. We were still there, and it was not just in one location, but it was all over the gorge. There were probably, I would say, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lights, and you could almost just see the forest light up from underneath, and then this light activity like we just saw on the film. And this, we started watching them at 8 o'clock at night, and we left at midnight, and they were still just everywhere. And I've never walked away from the gorge when the lights were showing. I mean, I would have stayed all night. It was wonderful. We were there with some hotel guests, and we were there with some friends, and it was just a great experience. About 6 years ago, I was there with a group of, there were 13 of us, and it was after a terrible storm, fog and rain, and it was just an awful, awful night. When we got to the Wiseman's View, the sky just opened up, and it was this beautiful sunset, and the purples and the blues and the pinks. It was just a beautiful, beautiful sky. When it got dark, a big light appeared at the tip of Table Rock. And you know, Table Rock is very distinguishable in its size, and the big light came up at the tip, and it moved toward Hawksbill and just stopped there. And we thought, wow, look at the lights, these are awesome. And it came right at us, and it stopped maybe 20 feet in front of us. And it was probably this size,
Wow.
and it set